All right, it's time to talk with our featured guest, Dr. April Lee. April, how's it going?
Hi, good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being on. We were talking a little bit before. Those balloons in your background have been holding up for how long?
Like a month and a half.
How much did those cost?
uh, I bartered.
So break it down to me. What'd you do in order to get that?
I gave free whitening and I asked the balloon girl to do that for me.
Did you know her beforehand or no?
No, but she told me she did balloons and I was like, hey, I'm having a grand opening. I don't have money, but I can do this for you.
Yeah. Normally, okay, so you went in there, asked her, or how did that work out? Like, did you just ground mark it? What'd you
So
do?
she was a patient. She just scheduled a cleaning with me and she was like, I got charged $3,000 for a cleaning and I was like, you're like young, like you don't need this. Maybe like you have a little gingivitis. And I was like, yeah, we'll just do this simple cleaning. And then she said, oh, do you know anybody who needs balloons? And I was like, oh, like what do you do? And she was like, on my side gig, I do like balloon for events and it's hard to give up because it's really good money. And I was
Mhm.
like, great, then yes, me.
Yeah, because they're nice and they're still holding up. You know what I mean? So you
Oh
just
yeah,
had your opening a month ago, month and a half ago.
month and a half ago.
All right. So we'll dive into that in a little bit. But before that, tell us about your past, your present. How'd you get to where you are today?
I've been through a lot of interesting route. So I graduated in 2017 and then I worked for a corporation. I went to Houston. So I graduated from Pittsburgh. I went to Houston, worked for a corporation. It was a chaos. And then a week after I moved, Hurricane Harvey hit Houston. So I walked into an office where there was no office manager. I had two assistants who were interns, and then front desk. She quit that day. Treatment coordinator quit that day. Um, because we had 40 patients. I'm a new grad, and I had a molar root canal, and they put me with two interns and no manager. So I
Mhm.
was like, this is horrible. Like I can't do this. And Hurricane Harvey, I took a break for like a week, trapped in the house and just crying every day for a little while. And I was like, yeah, this is not something that I signed up for. I don't think anybody goes to dental school to be like, I want to work for corporations. Sounds awesome. But it's really honestly the only place they'll actually hire new grads. So I went in, dove in, and decided that I have to be independent. So that's when I started looking at turnkeys. I started asking around to see if there's anybody selling the office. And I'm a big like believer in God. And I was praying and fasting. I think Ramadan's going on today, but I am a Christian and I still fast and pray just because part of being able to stay focused on God. And I had a picture of my business partner. And so I reached her out on Facebook. I said, hey, like, I don't really know you, but you're in my picture. So uh, can you can you meet? I know you graduated a year before me. We happen to go to the same dental school. So she's like, sure. And then we met. And then I said, do you want to open up an office? And she's like, no, not really. For like, maybe I'll wait 2 years. I'm not ready for it. And I was like, well, what if I tell you that I know how to do like the beginning stuff right now. And if we get an office, maybe we can get it together. And she's like, well, I'm not ready for it, but I'm open. And finally found an office. Someone that I work for called, like it was a connection through a connection, and then she called from Boston, and she said, "Oh yeah, I'm like selling an office. I'm visiting Boston, but I actually live in Seattle, and this office has been open for a year." And I said, "Hey," to my partner, "Hey, do you want to come check out this office? Because they're selling it. It's only been a year open." And then we went and visited. We met the doctor who owns it. She had to move because family issues. And when bought it, um, we bought it in like we did the SBA loan because you can't do a startup loan with them. So the only way that you could do is SBA loan. We did that and purchased the practice. Started 9 months out of dental school and did a partnership practice acquisition. And first 3 months, obviously, it's just like new learning stuff. We didn't have any staff. We hired the first day. What happened was the doctor who was in there as an associate beforehand, he was trying to buy it, but his credit wasn't good enough to get approved.
Mm.
So when he realized that he wasn't good enough to get approved to purchase a practice, he told the entire staff, I'm leaving, you guys need to quit because this is getting sold. And the doctor freaked out because they all quit the next day with the patients on the schedule, and she had to do a red-eye flight in, and we came in to just like be an assistant for her and, just help her out. She had to put Indeed, like, can somebody help me today? Like,
Mhm.
and we were hiring that day, same day the doctor was working, we're all working. And that's how it started with the first day in our new office. And I also had partnership is hard because you really have to trust that other person. And we really had an amazing partnership of that trust. I worked 2 days, she worked 2 days, and then we both worked at different places just to make our income so that we're not losing money in our office. We paid ourselves like a normal salary, like daily guarantee that other doctors would. And after a while, I've always had a heart to grow the office, but when you're not on the same page after about 3 years, me constantly pushing to say, hey, can we grow to another office? And the other partner is not ready, then I have to branch out.
Mhm.
So that's when I decided that I'm going to probably be closer to my family. My family's in Florida, and then sell that office and start something new or keep the office. But it ended up being that I had to sell the office and move here last minute because of the whole purchasing this office and signing the lease and everything. And I couldn't do it remote anymore.
Hmm.
Yep. So I had a dream back in 2020, and it was like a really crazy dream. Like all you dreamers out there, like dreams mean so many different things, and some dreams you cannot forget. And this dream was I was eating, it's just so funny. I was hanging out and I saw Jim Carrey and I was like, Jim Carrey, like, what are you doing by yourself? You're like really famous. Like you're here eating by yourself. And he was like, oh, no one wants to come and eat with me. And I was like, well, I'll come hang out with you. Like you're one of my favorite comedians. And I'm just sitting there chit chatting with him in the dream. And he said, yeah, here, if you have any questions, here's my phone number. And he gave me his phone number. This was May 15th, 2020, right at the brink of COVID. And I woke up and I was like, what is this phone number? I was like, what is this area code? All I remember the area code is 727. And then I look it up. I was like, 727 area code, and it was St. Pete. I was like, where's that? And I was like, oh, it's kind of close to Tampa. It's like in Florida. Like, how convenient. Like, what are the odds? And I said, oh, well, Jim Carrey, Florida. I just looked it up. And then boom, like May 16th, 17th was the first day he had an opening for his gallery at Ocean Gallery down in St. Pete Beach right here. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, well, that's just weird, right?
Mhm.
And and then so I was just like going on, roaming out through the day, just kind of shocked by that dream and just walking around the park to quarantine myself from everybody else. And to me, like I already told you, I'm a big believer in God. Um, that 727, it was like written in red, which is like Jesus wrote in red in the Bible. And like when he spoke, it was always in red. And then Jim Carrey initials, same as Jesus Christ initials. And also he had a YouTube video that told a story about him being an artist, and he also drew a face of Jesus in that video. And I'm just like shocked by every little moment. And my little crazy self still trying to like suppress it because I wasn't ready to sell my office. Then a broker called me out of nowhere from Orlando, and she said, hey, are you looking to find an office? And I was like, no, not over there. And I was like, how did you even get my information? And he said, oh, I don't know, it's in our directories. So I realized that they're also a branch of Texas brokers, and they did a first branch in Orlando. And I've actually never reached out to them, but they happen to have my phone number. And they said, yeah, where do you want to look? And I said, Tampa, I'm open to it. It's like a city. And then 2 months in, they said, hey, are you open to going to St. Pete? Because it's really hard to find a location in Tampa. And I was like, well, honestly, if it weren't for that dream, I probably would have said no. But because of that dream, like, fine, you can start looking. And when they started looking and found a location, it was all the signs matched up. So I decided to sign and then build this office.
And now you're in the office.
Yep.
Okay, we'll jump into the build out process, but let's rewind a little bit. You were in Houston and you worked as an associateship in Houston or an associate at Houston
So I was a partner of the business that I owned.
in Houston?
Yes.
Oh, what part of Houston or where?
So we were in Cypress, Texas. She and I bought it together. Um, we created an LLC together with our both separate LLCs. It just makes it a lot easier to keep things together so that the assets, when something happens, it doesn't hit our personal assets like that. It has to go through a company, corporation that owns the office, then the other LLC that hits our DMD corporation, then it can get our assets. So we just wanted that safety there.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to do that and then had it for 4.5, 5 years.
Oh, wow. Why, if you can give us some points of why it didn't work out? I mean, there's the trust is still there. I'm assuming you guys are still friends, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I love her so much. Kind of because I signed this office and then I knew I had to go to Florida. And last minute I told her, I was like, this build up process has been so crazy that I was like, I gotta go. And then she's like, what? And then I was like, yeah, I kind of literally have to go in like 2 weeks. So I
Mm-hmm.
handed it over and I said, like, can you take care of it? And she was like, it was really sad because she was crying. I was crying because she's like, it feels like we're getting through a divorce. And I was like, I know it really is. It really is. Because like we
Yeah.
worked through such hard times together. The way that she took me on board with like, oh gosh, like she has such a big heart. Like what actually happened was I was a new grad, right? And she's already practiced a year ahead of me. When you do an SBA loan, they require you to have certain months of statement that you have enough money in your bank account to give you that loan. And my bank account was super fresh with money coming in because I was a new grad.
Mm-hmm.
And this money that's sitting in there has to be proven like 4 months of it not changing the status, like you're not getting money randomly gifted to you or anything like that. And I didn't have that status because I was just graduated. And that made the bank made it so hard that I can't be on to buy this practice. But she and her husband, he had stocks that he owned. And stocks can be liquidated really quickly. And they had money because she's been graduated for like over a year. And then and it's like accrued in there. It's not really been hasn't been moving. And last minute, I showed her, I was like, hey, I only have like $32,000 in my bank account right now. They need $30,000 down for me to start. It was like the 10% of what the practice was going to cost for us to buy. And bank was like, we're not taking that money because it's too fresh. Like we don't have records of like 4 months of it being stable in there and hasn't changed. And so what she and her husband ended up doing was, well, we got to wire this last minute. Like we have 2 days to do this, and I'm trying to get gifts from my parents to get like the money or something because that's the only way that they'll allow me to have the money.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a gift and then you don't return it back. So she ended up just putting all that money they liquidated and gifted to me, and then we put $60,000 down to start. And they had that much trust to like the husband sold his stocks to do that for me. And
Mm-hmm.
like that's a whole nother level of like trusting somebody who just randomly Facebook message you. And
Yeah.
And then, I mean, they knew that I was like, I have this money. I just like, they're not taking it. So obviously I wired them back to them afterwards. And that's how we got started.
Okay, that's good. So then I know you said you wanted to grow, but she wasn't ready.
She said it was too much of a headache.
Talk to me about that. Why did you want to grow? Was there a did she want to just I guess hyper focus on the current practice that she had and then build it, maybe drop insurance, all that stuff? Or was it more like you were just like, all right, let's just keep going. Let's go do another one, another one. And is that like your future too with this one?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this I finally think I've kind of solidified some of the reasons why I'm doing it. I did want to grow. I was like, hey, can we grow to like 10 offices? And she's like, one's a lot. And she's like, I'm a little bit older than you. She's like 4 years older than me. She's like, it's a lot. She's not an she's more of an introverted personality, extrovert, but at the same time, um, didn't have like the ADHD, like hyper personality like I do. So like I have a lot of energy roaming around all day long. So she was like, I can't like this one office is enough.
Mhm.
So and I'm over here going like, I want like 20. So that just kind of didn't really settle with that's when I had to we had to realize I was like, hey, eventually I'll probably end up branching out or like giving just letting you take care of this entire office by yourself.
Gotcha. So do you
Yeah.
still own a part or are you still a partner with the other practice or no, it's 100% hers?
It's hers now.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, so then you decided let me ask you a question real quick. You said you spoke with the branch of brokers in Texas. Who are they?
Excite.
Excite. Okay. They have a branch now in Florida.
Orlando, uh-huh.
Mhm. Oh, okay. How was it working with them?
Well, the guy that I work with, he got fired, but he ended up finding my awesome space.
Really?
And I
Do
was
you,
like, so that transition after he found it was like perfect, but then like that transition after was like an issue, and I was like, there
what
was a
was the
lot of
issue?
they didn't get the address right,
Mhm.
so permitting was a little bit. I got a different address after I finished permitting.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
so let's dive into that a little bit. Let's dive into your business. Like you went with who for a loan?
I did Bank of America.
Okay, what were the terms of that loan?
I got approved, I think like $550,000. And it's like because during the approval, like I still had my other office, so like they couldn't approve me for a lot because of my like guarantor part of the other office. So that's what I got. And I got that loan May 2021. And I maybe right before, but now I opened this December 2022. Like that's how long of this build out was, like the whole journey of itself. Um, so they told me that I just have to do like 2 years of just letting them see every monthly and then try to make sure I'm not failing.
Mhm.
And also Wells Fargo was another one that I was just thinking about. Chase doesn't do startup loans, but Wells Fargo does startup loans. And right when I was going between Bank of America and Wells Fargo got a lawsuit for
Mhm.
fraud. So I was like, well, I guess I'll go with Bank of America because I don't want to really go with a bank that got lawsuit.
Yeah.
So I just black and white. I'm a very black and white person. So I just chose Bank of America. My interest rate was pretty low. It was during COVID, so it was very low at that time, just like houses were really low. Um, except the whole construction part took an extremely long time. So, but I love Bank of America. My guy was really great. And the reason, my biggest thing I love about Bank of America was they didn't let me spend money on some of these areas that I was wanting to spend money. And it was like the biggest blessing that you can think of. It sounds weird, but they want to make sure that they protect you from just being, sorry, like women, we shop more than I think men. Stereotypical thing. I think, don't quote me on it, but I do see a lot of women shopping a lot more, and men are sitting outside waiting until they're done. That's how my dad is. But then
Uh-huh.
when you're on a kick to spend and you're like, yeah, I bought this, and I do it myself, right? I'm like on a kick to buy Christmas presents, and all of a sudden I'm spending without filtering. I act like I have all the money in the world, and then I spend, and then no one stopped me. But when you're
Mm.
on a kick to keep spending, then like Bank of America is like, that husband's like, stop. Like, no, no, like that's not a good spending, right? They're
Yeah.
like, why are you spending this? They ask me these questions. And some people have a personality of like, oh, don't ask me why I'm doing this. I'm independent. I'm on my own. Like, they know what they're doing. They've done this many times, and they know probably why dentists, most of them don't go to business school, and most of them like to spend. And we see shiny, pretty things and we like it and we want to spend it. So they put that stop on me, and they still allowed me to spend it in ways that I really needed things. So they will just like shift the money around, saying like, this is how much you can spend here. We can allocate this here. And that will be actually good for um, me able to just not overspend and then spend all my loans. Then I have to spend it out of my cash.
Gotcha. So you like that. You like it when they were there telling. Did you go on? And you're kind of right. Like even I'm guilty of that. Like I'll be good at like saving, and then when for some reason if I'm on a kick, anybody can just, Michael, I need that. You got it, right? What is up with that? So let me ask you, your build out, how much was that?
My build out it started at 310, and then it ended at probably, I want to say like 350.
Okay. Talk to me about your build out process. How did that go?
Oh, it was hell.
Why?
Contractors don't have this thing called calendar. So they move it at their own free space on. I was just like, wow, like we're always on a time, and dentists are like, let's get this done out. Like we're very efficient people because that's how in the clinic we are. But like I'm sure everybody who's renovated a house or part of whatever construction you've ever went through know that contractors don't have a calendar. So that's the same in a dental space or a commercial space. So I kind of went through quite a bit of hell with three of the contractors dropped me when I first started. So I was doing this in Houston, and I had a designer. My designer was awesome, and he was getting like, I had three contractors who I was negotiating with, and then two of them were non-dental, and they're like, yeah, we can do it. And later on, two of them, like one of them dropped me, and then the other one, she was like, yeah, we can do it. And then the other guy was a dental contractor.
Mm.
He quoted me a lot higher, so I was a little bit hesitant. But then also, he said he was gonna do the engineering and architect with his team because he has a whole team. He doesn't have to hire an independent contractor. And then he said he was gonna do it. 2 weeks later, my designer's like, hey, have you heard back that if you got your engineering back? And I was like, no, not yet. I'll just give it a little bit more time. And then 2 weeks after, he's like, hey, we should have heard this by now. And then so I reached out to him, and he's like, oh, well, because I know that you were negotiating with other contractors, I quit that process. And he
Mm.
told me. And he's like, I only want to do this if you're gonna work with me. And I was like, and my designer got really mad. He was like, what the heck? He wasted a month of your time and didn't tell you. And he's like, go look for a different contractor, we'll work with him. Found out that one of them that I was working with, the guy who I was mainly working with got fired, and she got fired. And then they quoted me 3 times higher at the end when they did the engineering. They hired an independent contractor for engineering. And then they're like, yeah, this is going to be like 3 times more than what we initially quoted you. So that's when I was like, I've wasted so much of my time, my lease and loan. I mean, lease is like, the free lease is almost done. And then I had to get up and I told my partner, I was like, hey, I actually think I have to be there in person and get this going, because it's been like 4 or 5 months that I've just been sitting here and not been able to do anything. So I have to go. So that's how we had to part ways. And I had to look for a job within 2 weeks. And I got a job last minute. Some like they needed a corporation. It's a pretty good corporation actually. It's like more, it's a doctor owned. And they took me on, and then I moved. I got an apartment, and this all like happened flip-flop in 2 weeks. I
Mhm.
got here and started looking for like people who are dentists and said, how did you build yours out? Who's your contractor? I found a contractor. Florida's really old school, and so there's not a lot of like little like details to like a contract. So when I showed that to my designer, he was like, yeah, this is like not safe or okay. So I hired a consultant, like he's also a contractor in Houston who built one of my friend's office. He consulted with my contractor and redid the contract.
Mhm.
Then that took a while because they were not um, communicating efficiently, because my Florida contractor is pretty old school. So he's like, yeah, it's just over here. And then nothing in detail really. So he's like, this is not great. So then they ended up, making it more detailed. And he's a good guy. So if I had known that, I would probably jump with him from the beginning, but you just met that person, you don't know.
Mhm.
So I wanted to protect myself and be safe through everything. I signed a contract with the contractor, and then the permitting took 5 months. It took four.
Wow.
Yeah, so all this time my free lease is going, and now I have to pay rent, and I had to talk to the landlord saying, hey, like I literally haven't even broke ground in this place yet. So, they still, it's business, right? They still need money. So I decided to take it out of my TI money for the loan,
Mhm.
because I am very anti taking out my own money to run a business, because that's not what my undergrad business classes has taught me. They said use other people's money to run the business and don't take off your arm and a leg to run it. So that's why I try to stay within the amount Bank of America gave me and not have to cash out my own money. Um, because in the end, I'm the one taking the toll and losing that. Um, so I took it out of my TI money, obviously had to learn how to budget really well at that point. So I equipped five ops like all ready to go. And usually I think startups, they start at like two and then build more out.
Mhm.
But I also had a hard time from my first acquisition, that we were equipped for three, and every time we try to equip for four, it was like a big block that we couldn't get past, because it was like it would have to stop our working day, and we would have people coming in doing construction, and it was too much of a headache, and I didn't want any of those blocks. And then if I was going to grow, so I decided to just equip all five and then try to budget it and make it work.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on. You mentioned you hired a consultant. What was his name?
Tim Nelson.
Tim Nelson. And he's a contractor.
Yeah, yeah, he builds offices in Houston, Texas, and he is seriously like a dad, and he cares so much about me. Obviously, it costs, but it's worth it, especially when I'm having a meltdown and not know my contractor terms or what should be done right, because I didn't go to school for that.
Mhm. Can I ask how
And
much it costs to hire?
uh it was like 5,000.
Oh, okay. In total or like per month or something?
No, he just did a contract negotiation for me. He just was like consultant who contracted, who talked to my contractor to make sure everything was like all the T's are crossed, all the dots are place. Like, yeah,
That's pretty helpful. That's really helpful, actually,
right.
to
Especially
speed up.
when, right. And I didn't know this town. Like, I was like, I don't know anybody here,
Yeah.
like whatsoever. So he's at least making sure these contractors are following the rules and doing the proper things instead of saying shady stuff because I don't know and then I'm screwed over.
Yeah. No, definitely, definitely. How much is your rent?
It is about 5,000
Okay.
with
So
the internet included.
with internet included?
And then
Oh, okay.
the
Gotcha.
triple
Gotcha.
net,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did rent start for you? And then when did you officially open?
Rent started for me in November
Uh-huh.
of 2021. I opened December 2022.
Oh my gosh. So you've been paying rent that whole time, like even nothing, not seeing one patient.
Yeah, but remember the guy I told you who was fired
Hmm.
from the brokerage? His name is Wale. He was just like the humblest guy, and he got the best negotiation you can to get TI money. I can't remember how much TI money was, but he tried to get the best space, location, everything. I really wish he finished through with me because afterwards it just got
Pretty bad.
a little bit, yeah. And but he held my hand through the entire thing because he cared so much about me and as a person, and he's like the type of person who cares about all his people, and if you're his homie, he's like got your back. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So
So I
then
got
now that you're open, what have you learned? What are you doing for marketing and advertising? What's your best ROI? What systems do you utilize? Things like that.
uh startup is so hard. Like acquisition is hate compared to startup. So all those people who started startups, like props to you. I would say it's about 20 times harder than an acquisition. So no lie. Like
Hmm.
acquisition, there's a reason why people try to do acquisition so they don't have to do the dirt work. But startup, you have to know everything. Like literally everything, nothing set in place. I'm using Open Dental. That's what I'm used to using in Texas. It's like a big Texas thing. Apparently, it's not a Florida thing, really. That's my EMR system. I use a communication system called Casper. I really like them. And I used Yappy before, but Casper, Dr. Osman, I think that's Osman, like
Kareem?
the one, yeah, he's the one who got me on board, really personable. Also, like because I played around with Yappy before, they ended up having a lot of things that I needed. There's just one thing I think they're working on that would make it pretty solid. Um, and I think it was like the treatment planning part that other like services might have treatment planning, but every other communication thing about them has been great. And then what else do I use?
Are you talking about Yappy right now or Casper? When every other
Cat.
communication. Okay.
So
So
I used Yappy before in Texas,
gotcha.
but Casper is a little bit more
Mhm.
like upkept with everything.
Okay, gotcha. Except for their treatment planning, you said, or you like it?
So they don't have it.
Oh, they don't have it yet,
And
or
they're supposed to bring it on this after this first quarter. So we're getting there, and I'm hoping that it'll be eventually we'll get that portion.
gotcha. Okay, okay. So you're using what are you doing for marketing and advertising?
Oh, I have so many marketing things right now. Um, Marketing is one of those things that it's not like you got it and you're done type of deal. I feel like you have to try every little thing based on the demographic and the region you're in to see which one works best. So initially I used Patient Pop to
Mhm.
I used it in Texas and they were fine, but here they're really not doing anything. They're supposed to do your SEO, but I haven't seen anything done. So I'm definitely, and they bind you to a contract for a year that you cannot get out of. Like, you cannot get out. Like, read the contract a million times, cannot get out of it. So after 1 year, I'm done using them. And then I've also took on Energize because I was really desperate after being open first month to bring patients in because nobody knew we existed.
Mhm.
And then it was good for the first month, and then I was having issues for the second month, and I actually contacted them saying like, hey, this is not worth my money. So
What
I
issues
think
were you having?
like nobody was showing up. Like they said like 50-50 would show, like
Mhm.
50 show, 50 no show. They're like Facebook funneling and like social media funneling, but it was like 10% show maybe,
Mhm.
and then like 90% just we never see them. So, but I think like after my conversation, they're working on it, and I'm really hoping they're working on it. But I've had that, and I have another local guy who does Facebook funneling. He's pretty good at what he does with other clients, except dental. I found out that it's the most expensive per click. He's like, I don't understand why your ads are so expensive. Cause he's like, I've been doing this like for all my clients, but every dental one is like per click, it's very expensive. So he's running that for me. I purchased um a machine called Morpheus 8, which so this office is not a family dentist office. It's like dental office, cosmetic driven, and it's a spa.
Hmm.
So I have an esthetician and trained her to be able to do Morpheus. It's like a microneedling with radio frequency. And when I got the machine, they also automatically came with 4 months of marketing for the aesthetic part. And I'm doing Google Ads.
Okay.
Hmm.
Is that working pretty well or?
Google, so that's why I'm trying to stay out of Facebook has a certain population. And for maybe for a general practice, it would be fine. But with an aesthetic practice, cosmetic driven practice, the clients are like a really big hit or miss, or they
Mhm.
don't show. Most of them just don't show. And then because they're like all price shopping and they want like everything done for free.
Mhm.
So I think Google Ads, I'm gonna allocate that to spend on it once my contract is done with some of these companies.
God. So your contract's already done with Patient Pop.
No.
Oh no. So you're still paying Patient Pop,
Mm,
Energize, and a Facebook funnel guy?
yep.
Oh man, how much is all that? How much is Patient Pop?
Patient Pop is like 1,000.
A month?
Yeah.
Okay, and then Energize?
5.
1,000 a month?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then the Facebook funnel guy?
He's like 2 grand a month. Okay, so now we're breaking it down. So it's like 8,000 maybe on
Yeah,
marketing.
8,000 on marketing. Okay, so then once the year's over, where do you see yourself spending, saving? What are you going to start doing more kind of thing?
So I really start to see the value in community and getting people who are influencers in the market to come in. So we kind of like, I help them out a little bit here and there, and then like trade in with their post or being able to promote us. I try to go to these events to connect because word of mouth is huge. And especially in a small town like this, like people call this a huge city, but I feel like St. Pete's pretty small. Um, like I'm coming from Houston.
Mhm.
So it's also helpful coming from such a big city coming in here because in a really big city, it's hard. Like marketing's really hard. Um, in a smaller city, I think it's more doable. A lot of people here are like local and they're pretty like hippie. And as long as you show face and then you actually show that you're a real person, they trust and want to come, and then word of mouth. My biggest thing right now is also like I'm trying to figure out different ways, avenues to market regarding some people are finding us through Google, some people are finding us through Instagram. When they would see their friend post, repost, I would have events. So not I would have I think I had the grand opening, so I'm having another event next month. And then just to get every other local vendors coming in to do their local thing. They got their own connections, like these business owners, and then provide the facility here, space for them to do that at the same time. Like it's just brand marketing right now at this point, and then branding myself. Another thing I'm doing, which I'm on a kick to do it this coming week. I've had my staff and me, we're going over to salons, and because salons they work with patients all day, people all day long, touch their hair all day long, they talk about little stuff. So giving incentive to those people who barbers and people who cut hair to like trade in for one of my service, but the service that I trade in for them is their lip service to their client. So I will get them in for free Botox, like and be like, hey, I'm gonna do a free Botox for you first time. Have you ever done it? Okay, which is great. If so, like if you give them, if you whoever you send over and they come here, you get like $50 off your Botox treatment. So then you send like a certain amount of people. By the time you send them over and they get treatment done, then you end up having all these covered, and you're gonna get free Botox again.
Yeah.
But it's also just like bringing in traffic.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. It's crowd marketing. Like, the best thing to do is when you go to these places is like make it like tangible. So like leave a sign up sheet there with them, right? So you're like, hey, what's up, man? Like, well, can I have some of your information? And then they're like, yeah, sure. Here's some of my business cards, right? Then you're like, okay, can I give you some of our information too? And at the same time, this is what I wanted to do just for you, right? And then you let them
Right.
know what you want to do, your incentive, and then say, here, I'll leave a sign up sheet. I can come back next week for people who wrote their name and number down. I'll give them a call. Right. But it's actually like something there on their mirror where patients are like, what is, and then they're like, front of mind, right? They're like, oh, they're giving, you want to sign up for this? Maybe give the patients an incentive too. Like, hey, everybody who comes in is like a percentage off, or I don't know, right? Something
Right.
makes it easier for them to refer, and then makes it easier for the patient to come on into, if you want to do that many incentives. Up to you.
Oh, no, we have that going for our patients too right now. They're like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
every person that you refer, you get like $50 off for your own treatment
I
or
think that
whatever
would
you
be a
want.
fantastic. Like if you guys targeted salons all next week, that'd be beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
You do really good. So then, one of the last questions I want to ask you, April, is throughout this process, from the moment I guess you decided to leave till today, what's been some of your biggest pitfalls or fails?
I signed the lease before I found a contractor. I think that was my biggest pitfall, because if I have a contractor, first of all, they can't give me the price anyway because I don't have the lease signed, but it's still someone that you can have to be able to build your space, because that wasted so much of my time. I think it took like wasted 7 months of my time.
Mm.
And then I was able to do permitting. My other biggest pitfall that I'm coming out of is staffing. Um, I think from the start, I have a lot of expectations, not a lot. These people don't know me who work for me, who sign up on Indeed, to work, but people just don't want to work anymore. And if I'm not gonna be personable with them, then they're like, I'm out. So at the beginning when I first opened, I had really, really, really difficult time with staff situation. The front desk girl didn't show up for the first day open. And then my assistant, she came in saying she wants to be an esthetician, except she was doing nothing for about 2 weeks and I couldn't figure out what she was doing. And then I finally brought in an office manager. And then office manager, when I brought her on that day, that assistant said, I know you need her, but I don't work when there's a manager in the house, so I'm out. So I was just like, what kind like, but it's also like, I guess I was naive because I never had issues with staff before in my old office. But coming here, they also don't know me and they're working for me, and I have to take care of my staff. And I really probably came off pretty strong and couldn't take care of them the way that they would if it was an established office and they don't have
Mhm.
5 million things to do. So I finally have a staff who's sticking through the thick and thin. They also love being here. And that's huge. They're like, it's so awesome being here. They love it. And they're like, it's fun. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like really thankful that you guys see me as family. And I was very transparent to them and be like, hey, I have to make these goals. I actually don't take any money home right now. I'm hustling on the side, going at an emergency clinic and working their night shift or going on a Sunday just because I also have to pay my own bills and I don't want to take it away from the office that's starting up that cannot provide me. Otherwise we'll be scraping pennies every day. So they know that I'm also hustling. They know that I care a lot about them and just being really straightforward with them. Like, hey, if we can't meet these goals, this is literally daily goal that I have to meet to just break even. And if not, then I can't provide you guys jobs. And I would have to shut down and figure out stuff first. And then I'm hustling. And that transparency with them, like I am an employer, but I don't pretend like to boss them around because nobody deserves to be treated that way.
Mhm.
They just all have mutual respect for one another and also like understand. So training is hard at first. We all expect everybody to be trained perfectly, but that training, there are people who appreciate it and they're willing to learn and they get really good at it. And if they're not really good at what they do, then you shift them to a different spot in the office and do that. So that's how you keep, I want to give jobs to people. I don't really want to fire anybody. Um, Also, if, not everybody's good people, I also have to be really keen and being able to pick up that too. But I also focus on trying to be in their life and be their mentor through different journeys in life, not just in the office space. So that's really built that loyalty for my staff. And they're willing to do everything with me.
That's nice. That's really, really good. Awesome, April. Thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure. But before we say goodbye, can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Oh yeah, they can find us on Flash Dentspa, FlashDentspa. And you can email us on info@flashdenspa.com. And I've been actually helping quite a bit of startup people individually. So if you have questions, you can reach us out.
Awesome. So, guys, that's going to be in the show notes below, like always. And April, thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure, and we'll hear from you soon.
Thank you.